Hello, Ty. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ava.
I'm honored to have you here. It seems like we've known each other for quite some time, and I believe we met when in Vegas a couple of years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we might have even met. Yes, I think you're right. I think we did meet in Vegas. I can't remember because you're local to the DC Metro like myself,
Hmm.
and we might have met over at the ServiceNow building for a partner gathering. It was either there or in Vegas, but yeah, we have known each other for some time now.
Probably so. And I know that you've doing some fascinating things with the Checklist Pro, and you're subject matter expert in service now, but I have not really heard your personal story, what led you to this amazing result that you've accomplished so far. And when I first heard it, I was deeply touched and inspired by it. So I really eager to share this story with the rest of my following. And I think that it will impact many lives and many entrepreneurs as likewise.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's always fun
So
to share.
without further ado, just do a quick intro and let's dive in.
Okay. Well, Ty Roach. I'm founder, president of TyGR LLC. That's TYGR. We have been partners with ServiceNow since 20 partners with ServiceNow since 2019. Tiger has existed since 2016. So we've been like provide originally when we formed, it was just me. It was actually I was just an independent consultant, but broke out on my own. And there was actually an interesting, well, it's a long backstory to how I got there because as an entrepreneur and startup, type company, I kind of started late in the game age-wise, I guess. I think most people don't do it as late as I did, but I did. And it was the right and everything really was, I think, the right time. But yeah, I formed the company in 2016 to do ServiceNow professional services. I always kind of had the dream to, build apps on the platform because that's what I actually love to do most about the ServiceNow platform is it just lets you build solutions, for whatever the customer needed. It was I knew from the beginning when I first got exposed to it that it was like this is built everything is a service on their platform. So I love it, and that was sort of the how Tiger came to. Do you want to
So
know more about myself, or do you
I
want to,
would love
or is
to
that
learn
just
more. So how did you got into ServiceNow in the first place and what attracted to you back in the day?
well? All right. So I first was exposed to ServiceNow in 2012, where I was going to a government agency to do some work as their solution architect, and they were, charged with moving from, Remedy into the cloud, and we went with ServiceNow, and that was my exposure to it was in those days, and I had been a full stack software developer my entire career, going back, to graduating from college, from University of Maryland, degree in computer science. I just built, business systems, scientific systems, all different types of environments. But when finally landed on ServiceNow, I was just blown away. I knew right away, it's like, wow, this is pretty incredible. So I fell in love with it, as obviously a lot of people did. Because it's wildly successful. And did that for many years as a consultant to a larger system integrator working in the government space. And then it was really just a matter after so many years of building up some expertise, sharing things like with my knowledge with the community, learning from the community. I had a lot of people gave encouraged me, you should just do this on your own. And it really just took a while before the timing I think was right, but then it eventually became right and I did it. And that happened back in I formed the company in 2016. I got the articles of incorporation. Okay, so I
Mhm.
first was exposed to ServiceNow in 2012. Got the articles of incorporation in 2016 was within days of like putting in my notice saying I'm gonna be leaving. I'm gonna start up my own company. But it happened that at that time, and this is in 2016, and I had a customer ready to go. It just so happened that, like, my wife found out that she had cancer, stage 4 cancer, so it's quite serious. And knowing that this was gonna be a real battle for her and for us as a family, decided to, not break out on my own. I was going to really need to just kind of be there for my wife, be supportive, and just try to get through this together. And so I waited. And so she had, many, surgeries and, chemo and, rehab. And a year later, she was declared no evidence of disease. And this was the summer of 2017. I was still working as a solution architect at this system integrator for the government. And I decided, well, let's try to get it off the ground, take two. Here we go. Let's try, because my wife was, no evidence of disease. She had, looked like she had beaten cancer. And she was, she was, after having gone through all that, I just gained a lot of just confidence and just realizing that, hey, life is short. It's don't, I didn't want to ever have any regrets. And my wife knew that I really wanted to do this, and she knew that I could probably be good, and she believed in me. And, I believed that we could do it together, or that, I could do this. So I started pursuing it again and got a customer lined up. And then, later in the fall of 2017, I split and was an independent consultant on my own, working for a government customer. And that was TyGR was really kind of born at that point. So we were off and running finally. So yeah, that's how it started. And there was a lot of trials even from that point on. But it was just an incredible experience from there.
And you also remember, you told me that one of the most inspirational purposes to really drive yourself forward once you find out how your employer was actually making on you. That was a big driver behind it,
You know
right?
what? You're right. Actually, thanks for remembering that. So that was sort of part of the motivation because, for my whole life, I had just worked for, my employers, and I was happy. I was very content. And as long as they were paying me well, which, really at the time I thought they were, and the benefits were great. I mean, the company was just a great company to work for. I like the people, but I did discover, I was getting positive feedback, customers, the community saying, you should really do this on my own. I didn't realize that I wasn't so sure that I could or I knew how, but when I found out how much the company was charging for me and that the customers were willing to pay that kind of gave you the motivation to say, because this is now like a year later, especially after having gone through the whole cancer thing with my wife, realizing that we can make some money here. And so we can do this. And there was a lot of money to be made. And the customers, they're just already used to, paying this. So I incorporated, and yeah, I was very blessed to have like a customer that, believed in me and wanted to do it. They just said, no, we really want you. We know that you know what you're doing. And, at the time it was just, I was an independent consultant. It was just the company TyGR was just me. But it was shortly thereafter that the customer started to, another customer came along and said, hey, listen, we want you to do some work for us. And after investigating, making sure it was okay to do this, I knew I couldn't just do it on my own. I would have to hire some people. So then started to, hire and, brought in a couple people. And all the while, Ava, it's just, I was learning, and this is within the first 6 months, this happened. So in hiring, I'm a billable resource doing work for a customer. I had to bring on some other people that they would be, billable to the customer, a different customer, and, kind of provided solution architecture, my guidance there with that project, but it wasn't full-time, it was just part-time. And, TyGR started to grow, and it wasn't without its challenges. I mean, I remember also I learned a lot the business, being a business person at that point, it can be very cutthroat. I, faced, legal challenges because, in the early days after I left, there was some concern, hey, did I violate my employee agreement? And I actually had to like lawyer up and defend myself because I felt, I was like in the verge of, people are not always, they're not, this is the side of business that I just really wasn't thinking that like, hey, people are not necessarily always rooting for you to be successful. It's cutthroat. And so if they see you being successful, and especially if they feel like, well, they sort of should own you or that your intellectual property is not really your own, I had to kind of defend that. And so we did and won. And that was just such a relief. It was a very stressful time, but no, I grew from that. I realized, it sort of makes you realize, hey, who you can trust, who you can't. Be very careful about the moves that you make. Think about your agreements that are in place. Make sure you have good legal cover. These are all things that as a developer, I just never wasn't really thinking about. 'Cause I always acted like I felt like ethically. I knew what agreements that I had signed, and it's just, but when you get challenged and you realize, hey, I'm either going to defend myself here or just get squashed. And so I chose to defend myself, which, cost money, but in the end, it cleared us and it allowed for us to continue in existence. But it was that infancy stage of the company that was a real challenge. And, thankfully we made it through that, and here we are.
So you went through quite a roller coaster of fighting with the cancer, getting out of it, starting and thriving business, getting bogged into these legal battles.
Yeah.
Seems like it's, be careful who you get in your business beds with type of the situation.
Yeah.
So then you had this prospering business that is growing into the ServiceNow community. You became a subject matter expert. You've been well recognized in this high tech industry community. So tell us about how your family dynamic supported and contributed to your company growth. And I'm pretty sure that, there was a crazy hour work schedule for you trying to put this
Yeah.
all together.
It was, wow. So after that first year, we were going well past the legal issues. We're starting to add more people to the business. So, in 2018 now, so we're now, actually the summer of 2018, we were past all of our legal, concerns, adding people, but my wife's cancer came back. So this was like a year to the date that she had been free of cancer. They discovered something because, they do the scans. And so like you said, all that stuff where we had talked about, there's a lot going on. And now, okay, I've got people that depend on me, employees, myself, my wife, my family, but I still had their support. I just know, okay, it's like this was yet another challenge because, work-life balance and, family is first, right? You have to take care of your family. So I'm a provider. I have to provide for my family and, provide for my wife and help her as she battles, the cancer now too, while I'm working on my own. That was a that was a challenge, but I had her support, which was amazing. You know, she she continued to battle it, right up until, 2, so when she passed away, and that was, devastating for us and for the family. Fortunately, I guess, and one thing, like, there was a certain part that, back up. There's something kind of important here that I think I missed about TyGR. So we were doing professional services this while, 2017, even as I started adding employees. But in 2018, having been on the platform for so long, I had always had this desire to build, you know, a product. So not just provide professional services to somebody that says, hey, I want you to do this or that. We need to do this. I had, after so much time on the platform, I started to realize a lot of things, there's an opportunity here to do something, to build something that can be used by customers, to make it easier for them. And so, like, by the time 2018 was rolling around, right about the time my wife was discovering she got cancer again, I was on my way to building Checklist Pro. And I was excited about that, the Checklist Pro part, really passionate about it. And I knew that that was the avenue that I wanted to pursue in terms of becoming a partner with ServiceNow. And so we did. So in 2019, I had a viable, you know, working product, without yet being a partner. I applied to be a partner. It's a process. They had to investigate you. What do you do now? What's your background? How long have you been doing this? Are you really a software vendor or are you a professional services company? And as a small company, that was, you had to convince, you had to justify that no, there's a market, and we did. So we had shown our Checklist Pro, what we had built, to prospective customers, where I happened to also be within the government, US government, working, and they were like, "Yeah, this would be great." And again, it was born out of the idea of sort of need. I can see where there's an opportunity. So it was, with a no code, low code platform enhancing tool. And it's still that way to this day, but it started like that. And it's just a way to say, Of course, ServiceNow, you can do these things yourself as professional services. You can customize it and do this stuff. Well, I wanted to make it easier for lesser skilled people to do things. And ServiceNow is always pushing that, they're always, this push for no code, low code. ServiceNow is doing it, we're doing it. We have a method by which we do it through our checklist. And that's very intuitive to people. And so we had a customer, ServiceNow accepted us. Uh, the dynamics of our company started to change a little bit, where it was like, I'm really going to focus more on being a SaaS company versus a professional services. And with my wife, with the recurrence, with her challenges with cancer, and also time with the fact that we had a contract that was, ending, I had to, all this stuff is happening around, 2020, 2021. And, I had to help find when our contract ended, I had to help find new locations for some of our employees. And it was just, I was back to being just me, solopreneur again. I had my own billable hours, which was great. We had a couple of Checklist Pro customers, but my wife was starting to get really sick. And in the year of 2022, I could tell things were changing. And, she finally passed in September of 2022. It really was, it was a big blow to me, to my family. Everything just sort of stopped. I was just trying to get through the day, to make things work. And I did. I don't know how. Well, I do know how. I'm a faithful Catholic guy. I've grown up that way. My faith is super important to me. It was really at that time that I kind of just leaned on it. Actually, the whole time with my wife being through cancer, but it really got me through. A lot of prayers, a lot of support, even from the ServiceNow community, customers. It was really amazing. Even partners, people I never would have expected that, were supportive, concerned genuinely. But it was a challenge, it was really a challenge, as you could imagine. And then I was probably having my little pity party for 5 months. And then in 2023, in January, it was a new year. And I'm like, my wife, she wouldn't want me to she always found a way. I mean, she's really my inspiration even to this day, where she just lived life. Like, I was so full of life. And even all through her cancer treatment, everybody would always remark and be amazed at how she just kept doing things. Like, she just lived her life. I mean, I remember at the very end, she was within weeks of dying. She was like, lost her voice, everything, had brain tumor, everything, all the nasty stuff that comes from cancer. And she's online looking to see, hey, where can we go, do a vacation, a repeat of last year's, we just
My
had our
gosh.
25th anniversary last year. And she's trying to plan the next trip. I'm like, hon, we got to get you better to get out of here before we can do all this stuff. But that was her. And that mindset really impacted me. Like, I just learned from her that, and I just, it was devastating to lose her. But like in 2023, I said, you know what? I feel like I've been blessed with this, with where I am still, the support of so many, and with what I have and what I've started. It's time to really put myself back into work and to do something with this Checklist Pro. I was very committed to that, and I realized, and in many ways, it's been a means for me. The work has been a means for me to deal with my grief. I put my energy into that to keep building something. I want to build something for this community that is valuable, that helps. And, it is growing. We have, customers in the US, federal, commercial. We have our first international customer this year. We've been having many releases, incrementally. I feel, and I hear it. It's just getting better and better. I'm very excited about the future. What I just can see it. It's just about, listening to, keeping your eye open and say, how can it be better? What do the customers need? What's next? And then, I'm learning still now, as a developer guy, you just think a lot of times, oh, you just build something cool and it's just going to be great. But there's a whole nother side. And I know, this is, being more of the
Yeah.
dev side, right? There's a whole nother skill set. And I'm learning this, especially the last, 6 months or so, maybe 9 months, that because the product has been very mature and full, very feature rich and valuable. There's a strong value proposition to have it all on our website, checklistpro.app. You can go there. a little self plug. But you know, you realize it's a skill to have compel people to want to buy it, make them realize that this is something valuable. So that's not as natural for me. And, starting to build out our partner program, looking to team with other companies and, ways to say, hey, we can, let's mutually try to benefit here. So that's where we are today. Working on, we had just had a 3.0 release right after knowledge. It was a great knowledge event, Knowledge 24. A lot of people that watched our demo were interested. Had several partners come. We have partners that are, coming, joining us now that say, we'll provide, premium support. We'll provide white glove treatment for, building solutions on Checklist Pro. And that really helps as a small company, because sometimes it's just your size as a company that because people are making an investment. They're saying, do we really want to invest in this little company? What happens, if something goes wrong? So adding partners and, being viable and not just a small little company is helping us. So it's like this little snowball. I can see it happening. So I'm very excited about it.
I'm excited for you, Ty. And
Thanks.
I know that a lot of entrepreneurs in a high-tech industry, some of them are further down the line, some of them are a little bit behind, but they get caught up in this challenges and fall into this pity party over pretty much nothing. What I found very inspiring about your story, that you went not through one round of the very challenging times, and at the end you came out on top despite the devastating losses in your family, despite all the grief and challenges, lawsuits. Share a little bit more of your wisdom, because I think this is some gems that really someone would be looking for, overcome their pity party or whatever that reasons behind it, or some day-to-day business challenges that we can help them to navigate through.
Yeah. And I'm still learning, to be honest with you, but it's, like some of that discovery that I'm realizing is that it's hard. It is really hard to do it all on your own. You need to have a good team. You need to have, a plan. You have to build a good product, build what people are needing, price it well, market it well, align with, partners, make it worthwhile for them too. So, again, this is things that, have been learning, that we're focusing on. And, the thing is, you have to be tenacious too. You have to don't, it's one thing that I feel that I've always been, I am that, if nothing else, is very tenacious. I don't give up. I keep, you got to pick yourself back up, and you have to be, like, constantly reassess what's working, what isn't, and be ready to pivot, and be ready to, make adjustments. It's constant, reevaluating how things are. That I've been doing. And I guess big picture also, I'm so glad. I'm very grateful for the folks that just encouraged me and believed in me in the beginning before I had even broken out on my own, because I never really imagined that I could do it. And so I would also just tell people that, like, you can't be pie in the sky dreamer. You have to be real. You have to have something, and you have to have a plan for how you're going to just, get into business and stay in business. And what is, you understand your identity, what's your value. And for myself, I realized, and it's slowly evolving, okay, I have expertise in ServiceNow. That's great. There's a lot of experts out there. So why would they choose a little company like ours? Well, again, your reputation is very important. So you have to kind of give, and how people were encouraging me was, in the community, I started to just help, especially other US federal customers. It's kind of like its own little,
Special customer of its own,
yeah,
right?
it has its own data center, right? There's a
Yeah.
GSS, and there's this FedRAMP Pi and all this stuff, and it's its own little community. So it's a community within the community. So I had that. You have to network, be willing to help people too, because just it's like paying it forward. You help people, and you will get help back, and when people will see you doing that, and you just have to have confidence, and don't and not and be honest. If you don't know something, you're gonna have learn it. It's always evolving. So there's so many things that are involved. staying on top of the material, get in and build stuff. If you wanted to be that, entrepreneur, just have courage, but you can't be fooled. You have to really think, is this going to work? I think you should do that. Or certainly at my age, maybe if you're younger and you think you could start it and there's less risk because you don't have family or dependents and people that need you. But when you do, which is good, my state in life, I had, my wife, my kids, my wife had cancer. It was a complicating factors. And versus where if I was just a single young guy, I mean, didn't own a house, it's like, okay, no big deal. But depending on where you are in your state of life, you have to really think more seriously the viability of what you're, embarking on. But don't have courage, do this. And it may just be that you have to, I was very fortunate that I was able to do it, on my own. A lot of people have like founding groups of people, like trusted partners. You do that. You need that. You need good advisors. I've had really, really good advisors giving me counsel, both legal, technical, business decisions. You know, it's all been there for me. So I've been really blessed to have all of that. And so I share that because that's what's really helped me to get where I am. And I've done my part, but I've had a lot of help along the way too. And I'm grateful for that.
And I believe last time you've shared with me that what helped you to overcome some of the biggest struggles or biggest, hardest days were through service. So the cure and the
Yeah,
healing came from serving others and helping
very
others,
true.
offering a
Yeah.
helping hand.
Yeah, that's really good. And again, from my own personal grief, with the loss of my wife, Renee, it was deciding really just that, I need to make this app better. And that's on the work side. But then even just like on a human level, I just started to give back. I decided there's things that I can volunteer for or help. And it really is that classic saying, in giving you receive. It's so true. I started in just giving of myself, my time, talent, treasure. It's amazing how that has helped me. I can just attest to that. That like, I was in a dark place. I can still, I still suffer with grief. I mean, my wife was my best friend. It was in my life that will like, okay, it's forever changed me. But yeah, I just look forward to right now. A lot of my motivation is to say, not so much how much I can get out of something, but really truly build something, do things that will help others. And so that's really at the heart. Because it's authentic, right? It's also, it's not motivated by money. I mean, I'm very fortunate at this stage in my life. I've done well, so I can always do better, right? Like,
Yeah.
it really is, and there's something that just helps you and helps humankind, mankind, by just doing nice things for other people, building something that is worthwhile and useful. And that's what I'm really realizing and just committed to keep going.
What I absolutely admire about your personality and your personal brand is that it has a huge heart and it shines and actually in a very high tech, and not everybody would understand the complexity of the service now and capabilities. But when you learn the story that hides behind it, it really shines brighter. I do believe that behind each brand, there is a person, and
Yeah.
behind each person, there is a story. And that story and that person that makes any brand from unknown to unforgettable. And your story really sparks the wisdom, inspirations to overcome challenges. It gives the human touch to a very high tech that industry that usually people will like, yeah, there's just so many other providers. And I'm pretty sure that that's exactly why, but your personality, your story, and your wisdom and kind of positive attitude what really attracts the customers, drive them, to do business with you, builds the customer loyalty, builds the brand recognition, and all the good things comes from the big heart.
Well, yeah, thanks, Ava. I appreciate that. And like, just return some compliments for you, if I may embarrass you a little bit, maybe, which is like, you and I have been friends. We've known each other. I know what you're doing. You shared recently your story. And just the very fact that you're doing this, I'm honored that you asked me to share my story. I love hearing stories like this. I think for so many, like you said, great stories. You sharing your personal story, like you had shared recently on LinkedIn. It was beautiful. And I was just like, I was like, okay, wow, I feel like I got to know you. And it's just like it very humanizes, your business, my business. You start to understand what this person has gone through. It's inspiring. And thank you for encouraging me to share my story, for you doing this. I'm really excited about what you're doing, with this effort you have going on, and I'm just honored to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Ty. It is my pleasure. And I really think that it really sparks the interest and curiosity and makes us more a little bit human, and then builds the relationship, gets to people to know us better. So thank you
Yeah.
for being on my podcast. Until next time.